Hello, my dear, and welcome to our 5 Minutes with Ekaterina war vlog from Dnipro, central Ukraine. Today, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the refugees abroad because lately I came back from Europe and I saw that there are some misconceptions in the perceptions of Ukrainians, and also I would like to tell you a little bit what I, as a Ukrainian, see there. First of all, I wanted to tell you that not each person having a Ukrainian passport is a Ukrainian. Some of people who are now abroad having Ukrainian citizenship are actually pro-Russian, so-called waiters who just fled the occupied regions because they didn't want to live in the war zone itself, but they do support Russia in this war. Luckily, they are the absolutely minority, and you can just neglect their existence. But if you hear some Ukrainian passport holder who is saying some anti-Ukrainian things, you need to think about people who are actually filming the results of Russian rockets making basically the new bombings possible. So these people are not Ukrainians, and I wouldn't like you to treat them as Ukrainians or as refugees. It's just the shame of our nation. Also, there are some people who relocated before the war escalation or even before the war of 2014. There are some people of a very wealthy background who are living very far from the war zone in Ukraine, and they just used the chance to relocate to Europe. There are some not wealthy Ukrainians having the culture of going as the seasonal workers abroad and just keeping living their life. So all these Ukrainians are not refugees, and I don't want you to be confused because everybody probably now in Europe have someone who knows a Ukrainian person, or everybody probably knows somebody who is from Ukraine living in Europe now. You shouldn't treat everybody as refugees. Some people actually now the season is summer, and some people just want to take some break and they go to Europe for some rest. But there is a group of people, especially single moms with children or women with children, who do really need your help and who are really refugees. The most heartbreaking stories I've heard is about these shelters for refugees where as many as 500 people can live in one small place, totally from the social benefits, and who have all these refugee problems. And the problems the Ukrainians have there as refugees are the same as Ukrainians have actually here as refugees. The biggest problem is job and accommodation is the second place, or accommodation and job. They are very interconnected. And to this job problem contributes a lot the situation when Ukrainian high school diplomas are not recognized across the Europe. And for example, if I were a doctor, they would offer me a profession as a nurse, which is so much not fair because in Ukraine we have so many good specialists in certain professions who literally cannot prove themselves, and that's how the refugees have to go to low qualified jobs. It is a little bit the same in Ukraine, but in Europe it's much worse because of not recognition of the diplomas. And other problems which are not the same as here is the language barrier. It is huge, and if adult people go abroad, they cannot learn language within 3 months. You know, you're on this channel, so maybe you watched my previous videos where I was talking about it. You need a few years in order to become fluent in your target language, and you need to learn non-stop. So language barrier is a huge, huge problem, and it prevents from finding a job and then from finding the accommodation, from supporting yourself and maintaining the good lifestyle, or even the same lifestyle as somebody had in Ukraine. And also, among others problems which are not that bad, but that are also stockpiling, making the situation abroad is pretty making the situation abroad pretty hard, is the cultural differences, the differences in spaces, for example, pavements, road signs, just different legal system, different medical system, different schooling system. All this makes you in makes you constantly seeking for the decisions that you even don't think about when you live your life. And another problem is scammers. There are a few considerable amount of people who are trying to uh, get advantage of Ukrainians, and scams are now pretty popular. People take as much as 500 or 5,000 even dollars in order to place the Ukrainians somewhere, and in the end, it never happens. So all these problems they are existing, and legal authorities, for example, they know about them, but maybe you, as just a common citizen, you're not aware about it. And my message for today is just to distinguish Ukrainians from Ukrainian refugees, just Ukrainians from people in need, and helping these most vulnerable groups, recognizing their problems, and not leaving us alone when we are in need. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for your help. Um, I'm very cautiously saying that the counteroffensive is starting, and I do really hope that my next video would be much, much more positive, despite all the rocket attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure, despite all these terrible things happening in Odessa, despite all these bombings, drone attacks, rocket attacks in Syria. And so I'm very optimistic looking at this counteroffensive, and let's hope for it. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Goodbye for now.